Hey everyone, Logan Greenberg with Sunrise Law Group here as always with my partner Zach DeLerno. And this video we want to talk about what's the role of an executor in a will. And before we talk about the role, I'll just explain briefly what an executor is. The word executor comes from the word execute. And so the person who's the executor of a will is actually going to execute the wishes of the will. So if you think practically about if you write a will and you say, I want to distribute all this property to all these people, well, somebody actually needs to go line by line and make sure that each person receives what they're supposed to. And so the person that does that would be called the executor of the will.
That's right. And a lot of times what is the nuts and bolts, what people ask us is, what does the executor actually do? Meaning, what is the process? So if we were to go through an actual scenario, if someone were to pass away and they name somebody as their executor, what is the next steps? What does that executor do? They would take an original of the will. They would take the original will that was executed to an estate attorney. They would open succession. The court would approve and issue what's called letters of testamentary. The language changes if it was an intestate succession, but essentially they will receive court authority to act as the succession representative. What does that mean? That person would, going back to the nuts and bolts, they would go open up a bank account, an estate bank account, right? All of the decedent's accounts at different bank accounts, the executor would have the authority to go shut that down, move everything into an estate bank account. If there's property, they have the authority to sell it. They carry out all the wishes that are provided in the will. And in doing it, they're opening up bank account. They open up an estate bank account. They, at some point when the succession is being closed, they will write checks to the heirs. The executor themselves may be an heir, but they have the responsibility ultimately of collecting all of the assets and then distributing that to the heirs.
Yeah, and if that sounds like a lot of work, sometimes it can be. But here's a little known fact about the law in Louisiana. The executor is actually entitled to a little bit of compensation for all that work. So the estate can actually pay whoever's going to be the executor to do all of this work on behalf of the estate.
That's right. There's a statutory rate in Louisiana. It's a percentage of the estate that's provided to the executor. So they are provided compensation if they exercise that power, and it's a lot of power, right? And it may sound like a lot of work, and this is a trusted person who has to carry out the wishes of the decedent and run the succession and go through administration. A kind of a question that we get a lot is, can that person be removed? Are there certain people who are disqualified from being an executor? And the answer to that is yes, they can be removed if they breach their duties as executor. And also there are enumerated disqualifications where someone, if they've committed a felony, they're not allowed to be the executor, and it would go to the backup executor. That's why we always, again, advise to list multiple executors, a primary one, and in the event that they can't serve or they're predeceased, then the next one can. And there's a foolproof plan for all of this. Remember, the courts and the law has always provided a way, and so the court can, even if petitioned by the parties, can name an independent executor. So important to keep in mind, the executor really is an important person. They're responsible for distributing the assets. It can be a lot of work, and they can get compensation for that. And they're so important that if they breach their duties, they can be removed, and they also have to be a qualified person to be an executor. Is there anything else I'm missing? Anything else on executors?
No, I think the important thing is to just remember that whoever's going to be your executor is going to have a lot of authority, and so you really want to make sure that it's someone that you trust, not only to carry out your wishes, but also someone that you believe is actually going to put in the effort to do it. And so it may be one of the most important decisions that you make when you're creating your will or your estate plan.
That's right. I agree with that. And like always, guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. We'd love to help you out in any type of estate planning capacity that we can.